The morning sun rose over the city of New Seoul on Elysium 7. Children walked to school. Parents kissed their families goodbye and went to work. Old men sat in parks and watched the clouds move across the purple sky. It was a normal day on humanity's brightest colony world. 3 million people lived there. They had built homes, hospitals, farms, and dreams on this distant planet. They believed they were safe. They were wrong. The war between Earth and the Durrani Empire had lasted 2 years. Humans fought the way they always believed war should be fought. They attacked only military targets. They accepted surrenders. They treated prisoners with kindness and gave them food and medicine. When Durrani soldiers were wounded, human medics saved their lives. The galaxy watched and called humans soft. They called them weak. They said humans did not have the stomach for real war. The Durrani believed this too. Warlord Gren sat in his command ship and looked at the blue and green planet below him. Elysium 7. A world full of civilians, no real military force, just families and children and old people living their simple lives. He smiled. His orders were clear. Make the humans afraid. Show them what real warriors do to their enemies. Begin the bombardment, he said. His officers hesitated. Sir, there are no military targets. Only civilians. Gren laughed. That is the point. Burn it all. The first plasma bombs fell on New Seoul at exactly 9 in the morning. The school district was hit first. Thousands of children died in seconds. They never knew what happened. They were sitting in classrooms, learning about math and science and the history of Earth. Then they were gone. Just ash and fire and screaming. Lieutenant Kim Nari was stationed at a small outpost in the mountains, 50 kilometers from the city. She was 26 years old. She had joined the military to protect people. That morning, she was checking communication equipment when the sky turned orange. She ran outside and looked toward the city. A massive cloud of fire rose into the sky. Then another. Then another. She tried to call her family. Her mother, her father, her younger brother, June, who was only 16 years old and loved to play guitar. The lines were dead. She kept trying. For hours, she kept trying. No one answered. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. Warlord Gren was very thorough. He destroyed the hospitals where sick people lay in beds. He destroyed the shelters where families hid underground. He destroyed everything. When his ships finally stopped firing, nothing was left, just smoke and ruins and silence. 2,800,000 people died that day. The youngest was a baby girl, 3 days old. The oldest was a man of 97, who had survived 3 wars on Earth. None of them were soldiers. None of them carried weapons. They were just people living their lives. Gren recorded a message and sent it across the galaxy. He stood proudly in front of the burning planet and spoke to all who would listen. This is what happens to those who oppose the Durrani Empire. Surrender now, or your worlds will burn like this one. Humans are weak. They cannot stop us. They do not have the will to fight. On Earth, Admiral Kang Tae watched the message in his office. He was 60 years old. He had gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in many battles and seen many terrible things. But he had never seen anything like this. He watched the footage of the bombardment. He saw the schools exploding. He saw people running and dying in the streets. He saw children burning. He watched it 3 times. His face did not change. His hands did not shake. He simply sat very still and watched. The United Earth Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every nation gathered to discuss what to do. For the first time in human history, there was no argument, no debate, no political games. Every single person in that room felt the same thing. A cold, quiet anger that went deeper than words. They voted. The result was unanimous. Total war, no restrictions, no rules, no mercy. Admiral Kang Tae was given command of all Earth forces. He accepted with a simple nod. Then he asked for access to the broadcast system. He wanted to send a message of his own. The galaxy watched as the old admiral appeared on their screens. He stood straight. His uniform was perfect. His voice was calm and steady, like a man discussing the weather. But his eyes were different. His eyes were empty and cold, like deep space itself. 2 years ago, we went to war with the Durrani Empire, he began. We did not want this war. We fought it with honor. We followed the rules of civilized warfare. When your soldiers surrendered, we accepted them. When your wounded fell, we healed them. When your prisoners were hungry, we fed them. We believed that even in war, there must be limits. We believed that some things were sacred. He paused. The silence stretched across 1,000 worlds. Today, you killed 3 million of our people. You burned our children in their schools. You murdered families in their homes. You showed us what you truly are. You showed us that you have no honor, no mercy, no limits. His voice did not rise. It did not shake with anger. It was perfectly flat and perfectly terrifying. So now we will show you what we truly are. He leaned forward slightly. For 2 years, we held back. We fought with one hand tied behind our back. We showed you the gentle face of humanity. The face that builds and creates and hopes for peace. You saw this and called us weak. You thought we could not be cruel. You thought wrong. You wanted monsters. You begged for them. You killed our children to wake them up. Congratulations. Now you get your wish. From this moment forward, there are no rules. There is no mercy. There is no surrender. We will come for you. We will find you. And we will teach the entire galaxy what happens when you harm our people. We tried being civilized. That ends today. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, aliens looked at each other in confusion. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. Humans were soft. Everyone knew that. They were making empty threats because they were hurt and angry. In a few weeks, they would calm down and ask for peace talks. They did not understand. They could not understand. They had never read human history. They did not know about the wars humans had fought against each other. The millions they had killed. The weapons they had built. The horrors they were capable of. When pushed too far, they would learn. On the mountain outpost, Lieutenant Kim Nari finally stopped trying to call her family. She sat alone in the dark and looked at a photograph. Her mother, her father, her brother June, smiling faces, happy memories. All gone now. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply folded the photograph carefully and put it in her pocket, close to her heart. Then she picked up her rifle and walked outside to look at the stars. Somewhere out there, the people who killed her family were celebrating their victory. They thought they had won. They thought humans would break and surrender. They had no idea what was coming. 3 months passed after the massacre. The galaxy waited for humanity to strike back. They waited for angry fleets and desperate attacks. They waited for humans to do something stupid in their grief and rage. Nothing happened. Earth went silent. No diplomatic messages. No military movements. No demands for justice. The communication channels that once carried human voices went dark and stayed dark. It was as if the entire species had simply disappeared. Warlord Gren celebrated in his palace. He threw great parties and told everyone that humans were broken. They were hiding on their little planet, crying and afraid. He had proven that the Durrani were the strongest. He had proven that humans were nothing but soft, weak creatures who could not fight back. Other aliens were not so sure. Ambassador Thule of the Galactic Council had studied humans for many years. She knew their history. She knew what they had done to each other in their past. When she heard about the silence, she felt afraid. A wounded animal that screams and thrashes is dangerous, but a wounded animal that goes quiet and watches you with cold eyes is far more terrifying. She tried to contact Earth. She wanted to offer peace talks. She wanted to help stop whatever was coming. But no one answered her calls. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, something was happening. Dr. Park Soo walked through underground hallways that did not exist on any map. She was 43 years old, with short black hair and glasses that she always forgot to clean. She was one of the smartest scientists on Earth. For 15 years, she had worked on weapons that humanity hoped would never be used. Now those weapons were being built. "Show me Project Black Dawn," she said to her assistant. They walked into a massive room filled with machines and computers. In the center sat a device that looked simple but was anything but. It was a bomb. Not a nuclear bomb. Something worse. Something that used gravity itself as a weapon. When it exploded, it created a small black hole that lasted for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough to crush an entire warship into something the size of a coin. "It works?" she asked. "It works," her assistant confirmed. "We have built 200 of them." Dr. Park Soo nodded. She did not smile. She had helped create something terrible. But she remembered the footage from Elysium 7. She remembered the children burning. She pushed her guilt deep down inside and got back to work. In the shipyards orbiting Earth's moon, Captain Yoon Hana stood on the bridge of her new ship. It was called the Retribution. It was beautiful and deadly, painted black like the space around it. Every part of it was designed for one purpose: killing. Hana was 35 years old. She had served in the Navy for 12 years. She had always believed in fighting with honor. She had always believed in giving enemies a chance to surrender. The old Yoon Hana would have been horrified by this ship. The old Yoon Hana had died with the children of Elysium 7. "Captain," her officer said, "the weapon systems are fully installed. No surrender protocols. No mercy programming. Just maximum damage." "Good," she said. Her voice was flat and empty. "How many ships do we have?" "How many ships do we have?" 30 of the new class. 170 of the upgraded older ships. 200 total. "It will be enough." She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Durrani were laughing and drinking and thinking they had won. They had no idea that death was being built in the darkness. On Earth, General Baek-hyun trained his soldiers. He was 50 years old, with a scarred face and hands that had seen too many battles. He had always taught his men to fight with discipline, to accept surrender, to protect civilians. Now, he taught them something different. "You are not soldiers anymore," he told them. "You are a message. When you land on enemy worlds, you will destroy everything in Durrani uniform. Everything. You will not take prisoners. You will not show mercy. You will make them understand that what they did has consequences." A young soldier raised his hand. "Sir, what about civilians?" Baek-hyun paused. This was the line. This was where humans had to be careful. "We do not kill civilians. We are not them. But military targets? Supply lines? Weapons factories? Anyone who fights back?" He shook his head slowly. "They get nothing. No warnings. No chances. No mercy." The soldiers nodded. They understood. They had all seen the footage. They all had friends or family who knew someone on Elysium 7. The rage was quiet now. Cold and hard like iron, but it was there. Waiting. Lieutenant Kim Nari was among the soldiers being trained for special operations. She had volunteered the day after the massacre. She had passed every test with perfect scores. She never smiled. She never laughed. She just worked and trained and prepared. In her pocket, she carried a small data chip. On it were the names and faces of everyone who had died on Elysium 7. 3 million names. 3 million faces. She looked at it every night before she slept. She had memorized her family's faces until they were burned into her mind. One of her commanders noticed her dedication. "Why do you carry that chip?" he asked. "So I never forget why I fight," she answered. "So I never feel mercy for the people who did this." The commander nodded and said nothing more. He understood. They all understood. Ambassador Thule made one final attempt to contact Earth. This time, someone answered. It was Admiral Kang Tae himself. He looked older than he had 3 months ago. Tired, but his eyes were sharp and focused. "Admiral," Thul said. Please. Let us help you find peace. Revenge will not bring back the dead. If you attack now, you will become what you hate. Kang Tae listened politely. Then he spoke. We tried peace. We offered friendship. We fought with honor for 2 years. And they burned our children as a message. He leaned forward. You want to help? Stay out of our way. Any ship that interferes will be treated as an enemy. Any world that shelters the Durrani will share their fate. This is madness, Thul whispered. No, Kang Tae said. This is what happens when you push humans too far. You should have warned them. You should have told them to leave us alone. The transmission ended. 3 days later, the human fleet launched. 200 warships moved out from Earth's orbit in perfect formation. They made no announcements. They sent no declarations of war. They simply pointed themselves toward Durrani space and began to fly. Across the galaxy, sensors detected the movement. Reports spread quickly. Humans were coming. Finally, they were coming to fight. Warlord Gren laughed when he heard the news. 200 ships against the mighty Durrani Empire? It was suicide. It was desperation. He would crush them easily and prove once and for all that humans were weak. He gathered his fleet and prepared to meet them. He was excited. He wanted to see the fear in human eyes when they realized they could not win. He did not understand. None of them understood. The humans were not desperate. They were not afraid. They had spent 3 months preparing. 3 months building. 3 months turning their grief into something cold and sharp and terrible. The silence was over. Now the screaming would begin. The Durrani military station, Keth Prime, floated in the darkness of space. It was huge. Home to 50,000 soldiers and hundreds of warships. It guarded the border of Durrani space and had never been attacked. The commanders there believed it could not be taken. They believed wrong. Captain Yoon Hana stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at the station on her screen. In the old days, she would have sent a message first. She would have demanded surrender. She would have given them a chance to live. The old days were dead. All ships, she said calmly. Fire everything. 200 human warships opened fire at the same moment. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, rail guns, and weapons that had never been used before. The station's shields flickered for exactly 6 seconds before they failed. Then the explosions began. The Durrani tried to fight back. They launched their ships. They fired their weapons. But the humans had planned this attack for months. Every move was calculated. Every shot was precise. The Durrani ships died before they could even leave their docks. 4 minutes. That was how long it took to destroy Keth Prime. 50,000 Durrani soldiers died in those 4 minutes. The station broke apart into burning pieces that scattered across space like falling stars. There were escape pods, small vessels carrying survivors who had managed to flee the destruction. They sent out distress signals. They begged for help. Captain, an officer said, we are detecting survivors. Hana did not hesitate. Leave them. We are not here to rescue anyone. The human fleet moved on. Behind them, the survivors drifted in the cold darkness, watching their station burn. Some would be rescued later by other Durrani ships. Most would not. News of the attack spread quickly across the galaxy. The Durrani were shocked. The station had been destroyed in minutes. No demands. No warnings. Just death. This was not how humans fought. This was not how anyone fought. Then the second system fell. And the third. And the fourth. Dr. Park Soo's weapons proved their terrible effectiveness. In the second battle, human ships deployed the gravity bombs for the first time. The Durrani watched in horror as their cruisers were crushed into tiny balls of metal. Thousands of soldiers died screaming as gravity itself became a weapon against them. In the third battle, humans used viral nanites, tiny machines that ate through metal like acid. Durrani ships fell apart around their crews. Soldiers floated in space, watching their vessels dissolve before the cold vacuum killed them. The Durrani had never seen anything like this. They had believed humans were soft, kind, civilized. They had studied human behavior for years and concluded that humans lacked the stomach for true war. Now they learned the truth. Humans had not been soft. They had been holding back. Warlord Gren stopped laughing. He sat in his palace and read the reports with growing fear. 12 systems lost in 3 weeks. Hundreds of ships destroyed. Tens of thousands of soldiers dead. The humans were not stopping. They were not slowing down. They were cutting through Durrani space like a knife through paper. How is this possible? He demanded. They were weak. They were nothing. His advisors had no answers. They had made a terrible mistake. They had poked a sleeping giant and woken something ancient and terrible. Something that humanity had locked away long ago. Something that should have stayed asleep forever. General Baekhyun landed on the first Durrani colony world with 10,000 soldiers. The Durrani military base there had 2,000 defenders. They expected a normal battle. They expected the humans to be careful and slow. Instead, human ships bombed the base from orbit until nothing was left but burning ruins. Then Baekhyun's soldiers landed and hunted down every survivor. They moved through the smoke and fire like ghosts, killing everything in Durrani uniform. No prisoners, Baekhyun ordered. No mercy. His soldiers obeyed. By the end of the day, 2,000 Durrani soldiers were dead. Not one human had been lost. The civilians on the planet watched in terror. They hid in their homes and waited to die. They remembered what their own military had done to Elysium 7. They expected the same, but the humans did not touch them. Soldiers walked past civilian homes without even looking at them. They killed only those who wore uniforms. They destroyed only military targets. When a Durrani child ran across the street in front of a human squad, the soldiers stopped and waited for her to pass safely. It was strange. It was confusing. The humans killed soldiers without mercy, but left civilians completely alone. One Durrani elder asked a human soldier why. The soldier looked at him with empty eyes. "We are not you," he said. "We kill those who fight. Not children. Not families. We are not monsters." Then he walked away to find more soldiers to kill. Lieutenant Kim Nari led her special operations team to a communications hub deep in enemy territory. Their mission was to destroy it and cut off Durrani communications in the sector. It was a small building guarded by 30 soldiers. Her team killed them all in 5 minutes. Silent, efficient, professional. Nari herself killed 7 of them. She felt nothing. No guilt. No hesitation. Just cold focus. In the building, they found a young Durrani officer hiding under a desk. He was barely an adult, probably on his first assignment. He looked up at Nari with terrified eyes and raised his hands. "Please," he begged, "I surrender. Please do not kill me." Nari stood over him with her weapon raised. For a moment, something flickered in her chest. He was young. He was afraid. He was someone's son. Just like her brother June had been someone's son. Then she remembered. June had been 16. June had loved music. June had died burning in a school while Durrani soldiers laughed and celebrated. This young officer wore the same uniform as the people who killed June. He served the same empire. He followed the same flag. Nari pulled the trigger. She felt nothing afterward. She planted the explosives, destroyed the building, and led her team back to safety. When she reported to her commander, she did not mention the young officer. There was nothing to mention. He was just another enemy, just another number. The data chip in her pocket felt warm against her chest. 3 million names, 3 million faces. She would kill 1,000 more Durrani before she felt anything like mercy again. High Overlord Vec called an emergency meeting with his generals. They stood around a holographic map, showing their territory. Red marks covered it like wounds. Each mark was a system they had lost. "How do we stop them?" Vec demanded. His generals looked at each other. One of them, an old warrior named Thax, spoke quietly. "Overlord, I warned against the attack on Elysium 7. I said humans were dangerous. I said we should not provoke them. I did not ask for history lessons," Vec snapped. "You asked how to stop them," Thax replied. The answer is, I do not know. We broke something in them. We woke something up. And now that thing is coming for us all. Silence filled the room. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. And somewhere in that darkness, 200 human warships flew closer. They carried grief and rage and weapons that could crack worlds. They carried the ghosts of 3 million dead. They were coming. And nothing in the galaxy could stop them. 6 months after the massacre on Elysium 7, the human fleet had pushed deeper into Durrani space than anyone thought possible. They did not stop to secure the systems they conquered. They did not build bases or establish supply lines. They simply moved forward, destroying everything in their path, leaving only ruins behind them. Admiral Kang Tae stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars pass by. He had not slept properly in weeks. His hair had gone completely white. His face was thin and tired, but his eyes burned with a cold fire that never went out. "Admiral," his officer reported, "we have received another message from the Galactic Council. They are offering to mediate peace talks." "Reject it," Kang Tae said without hesitation. "Sir, they say the Durrani are willing to negotiate. They are willing to pay reparations. They are willing to hand over Warlord Gren for trial." Kang Tae turned to look at the officer. 2 years ago, we offered peace. They rejected it. 1 year ago, we offered to end the war. They rejected it. Then they killed 3 million of our people to prove they were stronger than us. He shook his head slowly. No more talks. No more negotiations. We stop when they are broken. We stop when they can never threaten us again. Not before. The officer nodded and sent the rejection. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Thule received the message and felt her heart sink. She had tried so hard to prevent this. She had tried to warn the Durrani. She had tried to help humans find another way. But it was too late now. The wheel of war was spinning, and no one could stop it. High Overlord Vec grew desperate. His empire was falling apart. System after system was lost. His best generals were dead. His soldiers were terrified. They whispered about the human admiral who never slept, who never stopped, who seemed more like a ghost than a man. They called him the Reaper of Earth. Vec tried everything to stop the advance. He set up ambushes with his remaining fleets. The humans fought through them. They took terrible losses sometimes, but they never retreated. Ships burning, crews dying. They kept pushing forward. Other species would have stopped. Other species would have pulled back to recover. Humans did not. They simply absorbed the damage and kept coming. Vec tried bioweapons. He released plagues designed to kill humans on the colony worlds they passed. Human scientists adapted within days. They created cures faster than the Durrani could create new diseases. The plagues failed. Vec sent assassins after Admiral Kang Tae, 12 of the best killers in the galaxy. Professional, silent, deadly. They reached the human flagship. They were never heard from again. No one knew what happened to them. The humans did not even mention the attempt. Captain Yoon Hana and the Retribution became famous across the galaxy. The black ship appeared in battle after battle, always at the front, always taking the most dangerous missions. Hana had lost count of how many enemies she had killed. She did not care about the numbers. She cared only about the mission. In one battle, 5 Durrani cruisers ambushed her ship. She was outnumbered and outgunned. Her officers suggested retreat. She refused. "Full speed ahead," she ordered. "Ram the flagship." Her crew obeyed without question. The Retribution accelerated toward the enemy, weapons firing constantly. At the last possible moment, just before impact, Hana launched every missile and bomb her ship carried at point-blank range. 3 enemy cruisers exploded instantly. The other 2 were crippled. The Retribution survived, barely. Half the ship was destroyed. 200 crew members died. But they won. When rescue ships arrived, they found Hana still standing on her broken bridge, covered in blood that was not her own, staring at the burning enemy ships. "Captain," a medic said, "you should come to medical bay. You are injured." Hana looked down at her arm. She had not noticed the wound. A piece of metal was sticking out of her shoulder. She pulled it out herself and dropped it on the floor. "I will come after we confirm all enemies are destroyed," she said. Stories like this spread through the galaxy. Humans who refused to die. Humans who fought through wounds that would kill other species. Humans who seemed to run on nothing but rage and grief. The Durrani began to fear them more than death itself. Warlord Gren, the one who had ordered the massacre on Elysium 7, decided to run. He packed his valuables, took his personal guard, and fled toward neutral space. He thought he could hide there. He thought humans would not dare to violate neutral territory. He was wrong. Lieutenant Kim Nari and her special operations team intercepted his transport ship 3 light-years from the neutral zone. They boarded it in the dark of space, moving through corridors like shadows, killing guards before they could even raise their weapons. Nari found Gren in his private chamber. He was surrounded by 6 of his best soldiers. They died in seconds. Then it was just Nari and Gren, alone in the room. The warlord fell to his knees. He was old and fat and afraid. He looked nothing like the proud warrior who had ordered the death of 3 million people. He looked like a coward. "Please," he begged. "I surrender. Take me prisoner. Give me a trial. I have rights." Nari stood over him. Her orders were clear. Capture him alive. Bring him back for trial. Let the courts decide his punishment. It was the civilized thing to do. It was the right thing to do. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the data chip. 3 million names. 3 million faces. Her mother. Her father. Her brother June. "You killed my family," she said quietly. "You burned them alive while you laughed and called us weak." "I was following orders," Gren whimpered. "I did not know. I did not understand. You understood enough to celebrate afterward. You understood enough to call us soft." Nari raised her weapon. "Do you still think we are soft? Please, please, I am begging you, show mercy. Show me that humans are better than us." Nari thought about mercy. She thought about being better. She thought about all the speeches she had heard about how revenge was wrong, how hatred was poison, how the cycle of violence had to stop somewhere. Then she thought about June, 16 years old, burning, screaming, dying. "You wanted to know what humans really are," she said. "Now you know." She pulled the trigger. When she returned to the fleet, she reported that Warlord Gren had resisted capture. No one questioned her. No one asked for details. They all knew. They all understood. Admiral Kang Tae received the news in silence. He looked at Nari for a long moment. Then he nodded once and turned back to the tactical display. "Status report," he said. "We have reached the edge of the Durrani home system, Admiral. Their homeworld is within striking range." Kang Tae took a deep breath. 6 months of war. Thousands of ships destroyed. Millions of enemies killed. And now they were here. At the heart of the empire that had murdered their children. He opened a communication channel to High Overlord Vec. It was time to end this. "We are here," he said simply. "Your move." On the other end, Vec stared at the screen with eyes full of terror. The humans had come. They had actually come all this way. They had not stopped. They had not slowed down. They had not shown any weakness at all. And now they were at his door. The final battle was about to begin. Admiral Kang Tae stood before the holographic display showing the Durrani homeworld. It was a beautiful planet, blue and green like Earth, covered with cities and farms and billions of lives. For a moment, he thought about what he was about to do. Then he pushed those thoughts away. "Send the message," he said. His communication officer broadcast to every channel in the system. The message was simple. Unconditional surrender. Complete disarmament. All war criminals handed over for trial. Reparations for Elysium 7. High Overlord Vec had 1 hour to accept. In the Durrani palace, Vec listened to the demands with a face twisted by rage and fear. His advisors surrounded him, begging him to surrender. They showed him the numbers. The humans had 200 warships in orbit. The Durrani had only 60 left. They could not win. There was no chance. "Surrender," General Thax pleaded. "Save our people." There has been enough death. Vec stood up from his throne. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wild. He had spent his entire life believing the Durrani were the strongest species in the galaxy. He had built his empire on that belief. He could not accept that it was wrong. No, he said. We do not surrender to humans. We do not bow to soft, weak creatures who cry over their dead. Launch all ships. Kill them all. His generals obeyed, even though they knew it was hopeless. The last Durrani fleet rose from the planet and flew toward the human ships, 60 vessels against 200. It was not a battle. It was a execution. The fighting lasted 2 days. The longest space battle in galactic history. The Durrani fought with desperate courage. They knew they were going to die. But they fought anyway. Some of them rammed their ships into human vessels, hoping to take enemies with them. Some of them kept firing until their ships fell apart around them. It did not matter. The humans were too strong, too prepared, too angry. Dr. Park Su's weapons turned the battle into a nightmare. Gravity bombs crushed Durrani, cruisers like toys. Viral nanites ate through battleship armor. Plasma cannons burned holes through everything they touched. The darkness of space was filled with fire and death and the silent screams of dying soldiers. Captain Yunhana led the retribution into the heart of the enemy fleet. Her ship was damaged from dozens of battles, held together by repairs and willpower. But it still flew. It still fought, and Hana still stood on her bridge, giving orders with a voice that never wavered. When the last Durrani ship exploded, she felt nothing. No joy, no relief, just emptiness. The battle was over. They had won. But victory felt hollow. General Baekhyun landed on the Durrani homeworld with 50,000 soldiers. They expected heavy resistance. They expected a long, bloody fight through the streets of the capital city. Instead, they found chaos. The Durrani military had collapsed. Soldiers threw down their weapons and ran. Officers tried to flee in private ships. The government fell apart as everyone tried to save themselves. Baekhyun's soldiers moved through the city quickly and efficiently. They captured military buildings. They secured weapons stockpiles. They arrested anyone in uniform, but they did not kill civilians. They did not burn homes or destroy hospitals or attack schools. When they found civilians hiding in shelters, they opened the doors and told them they were safe. They brought food and water to hungry families. They treated wounded people, even though those people had cheered when Elysium 7 burned. A young Durrani woman approached a human soldier. Her face was wet with tears. Her hands were shaking. "Why?" she asked. "We killed your children. We cheered when your people died. Why are you helping us?" The soldier looked at her for a long moment. He was tired. His uniform was covered in dust and blood, but his voice was gentle when he spoke. "Because we are not you," he said. "We came here to stop your military. We came here to make sure you can never hurt us again. But we did not come here to become monsters. We kill soldiers. We destroy armies. But children and families? No. That is what you did. We are better than that." The woman stared at him in confusion. She did not understand. She could not understand. Her entire life, she had been taught that strength meant cruelty. That power meant destruction. The humans were showing her something different, something she had never imagined. High Overlord Vec was captured trying to escape through a secret tunnel. He was brought before Admiral Kang Tae in chains. The old admiral looked at the fallen emperor with no expression on his face. "You will be tried," Kang Tae said. "You will answer for what you did. And then you will pay." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Representatives from many species came to watch. The evidence was shown. The footage from Elysium 7. The orders Vec had signed. The celebrations he had held after the massacre. When it was over, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty of crimes against all sentient life. Vec was executed quietly, without ceremony. His body was burned and his ashes were scattered in space. No grave. No memorial. Nothing to remember him by. Just emptiness. The Durrani Empire was dismantled. Their military was dissolved. They were forbidden from building weapons for 100 years. Human forces stayed on their worlds to make sure they kept their promises. Lieutenant Kim Nari returned to Elysium 7 1 year after the massacre. The planet was still empty. The cities were still ruins. But humans had built something new there. A memorial, a wall of black stone stretching for kilometers, covered with names, 3 million names. Every person who had died. Nari walked along the wall slowly, reading the names. Kang Min-soo, Lee Ji-young, Park Sung-ho, Yoon Mi-ra, thousands and thousands of names, carved into stone so they would never be forgotten. She found her family's names near the end. Kim Dong-won, her father, Kim Sun-hee, her mother, Kim Jun, her brother. She reached out and touched the cold stone. For the first time since the massacre, tears fell from her eyes. She had spent a year killing, a year hating, a year turning herself into a weapon. Now it was over. Now she had to figure out how to be human again. She placed a small white flower at the base of the wall. Then she sat down and cried. For her family, for herself, for all the things she had done, and all the things she had lost. Admiral Kang Tae returned to Earth as a hero. Crowds cheered. Politicians made speeches. Everyone called him the savior of humanity. But he felt no pride. He stood at his window and looked at the blue sky and felt only exhaustion. General Baek-hyun came to visit him. You did it, he said. You won. Kang Tae nodded slowly. Yes. We won. But I wonder sometimes. Did we lose something too? Did we become something we should not be? Baek-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. We did what we had to do. We protected our people. We stopped an enemy that would have destroyed us. Maybe we lost some innocence. Maybe we can never go back to being who we were before. But we survived. Our children will grow up safe. That has to count for something. Kang Tae looked out the window. Below, in a park, children were playing, running and laughing under the warm sun. They did not know about war. They did not know about death. They were just happy and alive and free. Yes, he said finally. That counts for everything. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Thule addressed the Galactic Council. Her voice was quiet but firm. We watched humans for centuries. We thought we understood them. We thought they were gentle, peaceful, harmless. We encouraged others to test them, to push them, to see how much they would tolerate. She paused and looked at each representative. We were fools. Humans are not weak. They simply choose not to be cruel. They hold back their strength because they know what they are capable of. When we push them too far, when we hurt their children, they showed us what happens when that restraint breaks. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not think that mercy means humans cannot be terrible. And above all, she took a deep breath. Never harm their children. Never wake the sleeping giant. Because once it wakes, it does not stop until everything that threatened it is gone. The galaxy listened. The galaxy remembered. And the galaxy learned to fear the soft-spoken species from the little blue planet called Earth. The war was over. Humanity had won. And nothing would ever be the same again.